Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Good Morning Science, the home edition. My name is Dr. Alon Eisenstein, and I will be your host for today. If you are returning viewers, I'd like to welcome you back to our episode number 10. If you are brand new to this series, I'd like to let you know that you can find our previously recorded episodes on our Facebook page, as well as our YouTube channel. So today we are in episode number 10. Can't believe it's been 10 weeks now. And if you're brand new, I'd like to give you a quick introduction to Pueblo Science. We are a Toronto-based charity, and we've been working for a decade now, offering professional development training for science teachers in developing countries around the world. And through our workshops, we provide teachers with teaching materials and ideas on how they can exemplify, how they can show, and get the students engaged in science activities, just like you are doing right now with this video, using easy-to-find materials and equipment you can find at home or in the nearby store, wherever you live. So what are we going to do today? Let me show you the experiments we have, and then we'll get right to it. So for today's experiment, we're going to need drinking water and glasses and ice cubes, some string and a scissors, and salt. For the second experiment, we're going to need M&Ms, which are colorful sugar-coated candy, and a plate and some water. And I'm going to have Bipasha returning to us this week to show you that experiment. And for the third and last experiment, we're going to use drinking straws, plastic drinking straws, aluminum foil, matches, some candles. I've got some colorful birthday candles here. A needle. I've got a sewing needle here in my hand, and some tape. So let me clear up the table and set up for experiment number 1. And I'll just pop up the slide with the materials so you can pause and make sure you got everything you need to get started. And we'll be right back. So let's get ready with experiment number 1. We're going to grab a drinking glass, and I'm going to fill it with water. And I'm going to fill it with water all the way to the top, but not right up to the rim. So as high as I can, but not overflowing. And we're going to take some ice. So I'm going to have some ice from my ice cube tray. And I'm going to pop it there. And I'm going to put it in water. Now, what do you think is going to happen when we put ice cube into water? Is it going to it's going to sink or float? You've probably tried that before, right? So you should know that ice will actually float. So now the ice cube is floating on the water. So now you can see that the ice, of course, is floating on the top of the water. And now we're going to see if we can pick it up from the top. Now, if I put my finger on it, it's just going to bob there. But it doesn't going to stick to my finger, right? So I'm going to take a piece of string. Let's take green or red. I'll do red here. And I'm just going to cut it a bit of length of string. And if I want to pick up this ice cube, it's going to be a bit tricky to wrap it around the ice cube, especially because the string will float. It's not going to sink, right? But I'm just going to try and put it over the ice and see if I can get it to freeze. Well, it's sitting there. It's touching the ice. Do you think it's freezing? Let's see what's going to happen if I try to lift that string. Ready? Hold the edge of the string. 1, 2, 3. Oop! It actually didn't stick to it, did it? Let's try something else. I'm going to put the string back. Actually, my ice cube is actually so small. I'm just going to take another one instead. Okay, let's see. Here, let me take a new one. That's why it's always useful to have a tray of ice cubes instead of just one. So I'm going to put my ice cube again floating on the top. So I'm going to put the string over the ice cube, like so. Make sure it's sitting all along the length of the ice cube. And I'm going to take some salt with my fingers, like so. And I'm going to sprinkle it over the top, like so. Okay. And now, so you can see how the ice is sitting over the top of the salt is on the top of the ice cube, and it's covering the ice cube surface as well as the string. Now, what are we going to see happen? We're going to let it sit for a few minutes before we try lifting the string again. What's happening? Well, if you live in a country like Canada and other places where you get a lot of snow on the ground, you know that you actually sprinkle a lot of salt on the ground to melt the ice. So in fact, what we're seeing is, or we're expecting is the salt to melt the ice, right? But will it actually make it stick? We've waited for a few minutes. Let's carefully lift the string and see if something actually happened to that. Look at that. The string froze onto the ice cube. Now, how does that make sense? I just told you that salt is used to melt the ice. So if we're melting the ice, how come the string is now frozen onto the ice cube? What do you think? So here's really the background story of why the string is now stuck to the ice cube. When the salt meets the ice, it does in fact melt the ice into water. What actually happens is when the salt is melting the ice cube, the melting ice needs to absorb energy for it to transfer, becoming ice into water. And where that energy comes from? It's coming from the water around it. And so all the water touching the ice as it's melting is actually freezing. Its temperature is dropping. And because it's dropping, that water nearby the melting ice is now freezing. Isn't that cool? So the water that is soaked inside the string that is touching the surface of the ice is in fact freezing and sticking to the ice, while at the same time other areas on the surface of the ice is melting to release the water trapped in ice into liquid water that's now very salty. That was experiment number 1. Don't forget to share back your pictures of you successfully sticking a string onto your ice cube and lifting it out of the water. Better yet, if you can show me a video, that would be super awesome. Okay. So that was experiment number 1. I hope you enjoyed that. Let's move to Bipasha, who will show us the second experiment using M&M candy. Yummy. Here's going to over to you, Bipasha.
Thanks, Alon. Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone back again for some more experiments. And I'm Bipasha. I'm back again with some experiments involving food. You might have noticed a trend. First we made eggs float, then we made raisins dance, and now we're gonna create some colorful magic with M&Ms. I enjoy food, which is kind of why I chose a lot of food-based experiments for you guys. So for this experiment, we're gonna need a plate with like a flat base, preferably a light colored plate, so something white or cream. So the one I have here is kind of beige creamish. We need some M&Ms. Now I know they're delicious, but let's first do the experiment before we start eating them up. And we need some water. So what we're gonna do for this experiment is we're gonna open our packet of M&Ms. I'm gonna eat one. I'm gonna take some out on the skirt here. And then arrange them in a boundary. And you can choose whatever pattern you like. Now try to make the boundary such that it's along the base of the plate so that the M&Ms have some stability. Now I haven't chosen much of a pattern here, but I encourage you guys to maybe look at the colors and maybe create a pattern with the colors. Something like red, blue, green, yellow, brown, orange, or maybe have some repetitions. I'm going to just take some more M&Ms to fill up the space here. Ooh, I'm getting hungry just looking at this. Who doesn't love candy? Okay, I think I have a little bit extra here. Now we need these M&Ms to be as stable as possible. If you like, you could even make another ring. Now here's hoping this works, because I sure wouldn't want to waste all these M&Ms. Oh, sorry about the noise. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, once we've got our pattern of choice, so this is what I chose. Once we've arranged them and they're all stable and they're not moving about, I'm gonna take some water. We're gonna very gently try to avoid splashes. Bring the water to as close to the center as possible, and fill it up so that the water just touches the base of the M&Ms. Oh, and you can already see it beginning. Okay, let's see what happens. I am very excited because look at all these wonderful colors. Look at all these oranges and reds, got some yellows, some browns. They're just leaching into the water, bleeding into the water carefully and slowly. Now once you pour your water on your plate, make sure not to move the plate, just observe. Wow. I just want you guys to see this for a bit before I start talking about why this is happening. But I wonder if you guys can hypothesize a bit while I do that. And as you observe the M&Ms, you can see that the part of the M&Ms kind of dissolved in the water or placed in the water is fading. The color is fading away, it's becoming more pale, it's becoming more white compared to the top of the M&Ms, which have no water on them. So yeah, I mean, I guess I should have mentioned this before, but make sure that you're pouring water in the center of the plate such that it starts just floating, spreading towards the edge of the M&Ms, but you don't get water on top because you don't want them completely submerged. You just want the water to touch the M&Ms, otherwise they'll start floating around within the water or the experiment won't work as beautifully as it is right now. Wow. So be very steady and gentle while pouring the water. Okay. Oh yeah, and you can also use a spoon or some surface to just guide the water towards the edges. You don't want too much water. Okay. So I'm back, and now I'm gonna tell you guys about why this works. So as we noticed, the M&Ms, the part of the M&Ms dissolved or suspended in the water became paler and lighter in color. And this is pretty much the reason why we see this beautiful color emerge in the water. And this is because the M&Ms are a delicious chocolate sugary candy. So from the inside, they're chocolate, right? But the outside, the crunchy part, is a coating of sugar. Now this sugar is covered with different colors, so different food colorings which are safe to eat, and that's what gives the M&Ms the color, right? But when I pour water on the M&Ms, that sugar starts dissolving within the water, and the color on the sugar also starts dissolving within the water. Kind of imagine maybe if you're making a cake and you add some food coloring to your batter, and that color just spreads all over. A similar concept where the sugar, as the sugar is dissolving, the color is also kind of dissipating into the water, which is why we see this just blend of beautiful colors, and we see something like that. Now, if you spend some time figuring out what pattern you want and you arrange the colors in maybe a rainbow form or a specific pattern, you're going to get even more beautiful colors forming. And then ultimately, all the colors are just going to meet at the middle of the plate. If there is enough color for that. But yeah, I would recommend not eating this candy now because it has come in contact with. So maybe if I take one out, yeah, you can see that this is the part that was sunk in the water, and it's completely pale and white now because all the color is dissolved compared to the top. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that fun experiment. I know it was slightly difficult resisting not eating the M&Ms, but we have plenty more left. You could try this with Skittles or Smarties or any sort of candy with a sugar colorful coating on it. It should work. Maybe even experiment with colored jelly beans or any candy, any colorful candy, and see what happens. The concept will be the same, wherein the sugar, as it's dissolving, also takes the color with it and it starts spreading around in the water. So I hope you enjoyed this experiment as well. I surely did, and now I'm off to enjoy some M&Ms. Don't eat too many. Okay, see you guys around. Bye!
Thanks, Vipasha. That was super cool and looks really yummy. I wish I had M&Ms. I need to talk to my agent. It's not fair. You get all the candy and raisins and stuff, and I'm using aluminum foil and straws. Oh well. Until next time, let's move to experiment number 3. For this experiment, just a reminder, we'll need 2 tall glasses. We'll need straws, plastic straws. We'll need birthday candles or elongated candles, so don't use any tea candles like we used last time. Make sure you use long candles. And the candles should be very close. Ideally, they should fit in, but very close in diameter to the straw. And we're going to need a sewing needle, long and nice and strong. Aluminum foil, I said, matches, and tape, and some scissors. So, what are we going to do? We're going to build a seesaw. How are we going to do that? Well, first of all, take the straw, and if it's one of those straws that is just straight, that's perfect. If it has these flexible bendy parts, we don't need those, so I'm just going to cut them off all together. There we go. So now we have a nice, straight, sturdy straw. Pick 2 candles, and they should be identical in weight and length. Here, let's go with pink and red. That's a good combo, right? Okay. Now, as I mentioned, they should ideally fit into the straw, but if they're too big or too small, we're going to need to make some corrections. So I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to cut a small cut along the tube, the straw on both sides, roughly the same length. I'm going to now put my candle on one end like so, and on the other end again like so. So now that we have a small cut, it fits inside. And just to make sure they're sturdy, I'm going to use my tape, and I'm going to tape it around. Now, tape usually doesn't stick well to the candles, but it will stick to the straw, and so you can firm it up very nicely like so, so the straw stays put. And I'm going to do the second side, the other side as well, the second candle. So I want to make sure that the 2 straws are firmly held within the cut straw on both sides. There we go. Okay, now we need to find the center of the straw with the 2 candles on both sides. And so to do so, you can just rest on your 2 fingers and slowly move the 2 fingers until they meet each other. And where they meet will be close to the center of mass. And that's roughly where you want to poke your needle through. Now be careful and maybe ask an adult for help so you don't poke yourself as you poke through. And now it should be through the center of the straw at roughly where the center of mass is. Now if you got this right, if I take my two drinking glasses, I can space them one next to the other, and I should be able to put the needle hanging over the two glasses, and it should be relatively balanced. Let's see. Nope. Now, if it's not perfectly balanced, that doesn't matter too much. We're gonna make it balance in a minute. But before we do, and because these are candles, you're probably guessing we're gonna light them up, right? You're right. We're gonna light them up. So before we light them up, we want to be a bit more protective on our table. So I'm just going to lay it flat, lay my candles flat, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to cut aluminum foil that is slightly longer than the length of my straw with the 2 candles. So now everything here will be contained within the aluminum foil. And so here I'm going to put this like so. I'm going to place my 2 straws. I'm going to put my 2 straws, and I'm going to place it hanging over the edges of the 2 glasses like so. Okay, we're just going to let it settle for a minute. There we go. And now you can see how it's hanging centered. And now we're going to light up. So this is definitely where you want adult supervision. So now, to adults in the room, here's what we're going to do. We're going to strike the match and light up the 2 sides. Now, because it's hanging like so, one side is tilted down and the other one is on the top, I'm going to start by lighting up the one at the bottom first. Ready? Okay, now you want to be quick about it. You want to do one and then the other. Whoop, there we go. Okay, so now I've lit the 2 candles. Now let's see what's going to happen. The one facing down is dripping, and slowly it's becoming lighter, And now the other side is heavier, so it's going to tilt down. And now we've got a little seesaw. Now why is it doing this? How come, one side just died. If that happens, no worries, you can always light it up. There you go. Come on. You might need to tweak it a bit. So how come it's wobbly, and how come the one facing down drips? Well, the one facing up does not. Well, if you think about how candles work, the way candles work is that the wax is not flammable. The wax is solid, and the heat melts it, and then it drips, right? But if it's hot enough, and it melts, and it's still close enough to the flame, it will evaporate into vapor. And that vapor is flammable, and that's what is wicked into the wick and burns. And so, when the flame is tilting down, all the heat coming from the flame is melting the candle faster because all the heat rises into the candle as it's pointing down, and it drips faster. On the other hand, the candle pointing up, the heat goes away from the candle. Therefore, the melting of the wax is now slower. And only at the bottom of the flame, it's wicking some of that liquid wax through the wick and then evaporating further away. And that's why most of the dripping happens when the candle is pointing down. And as it's pointing down, it's losing weight. And then the other side, which was facing up, becomes heavier and pushes everything down. So we've got amazing burning effect together with gravity, heat transfer, gas transfer, combustion. So many things we can talk about here. I hope you liked that experiment, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I'm just going to let it finish up. You can see that at some point it's going to twirl all the way around like that if it gets enough momentum. Oh, there we go. So thank you again for Bipasha for showing us the M&M experiment. And I hope you enjoyed the sticking a string to an ice cube experiment. And definitely, I know you love this one, the seesaw, candle seesaw. If you like what we do, please do subscribe to our Facebook channel or in our YouTube channel so you can get notified as soon as we post another video. And if you believe in our charitable mission, I would be more than happy if you consider donating to our cause, and you can do that through our Facebook page as well as our homepage, puebloscience.org. That's it for me, Dr. Alon Eisenstein from Pueblo Science here in Toronto. Stay safe and stay healthy. See you again next time. Bye.